Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this collaborative research support engagement series. Brought to you by USM Library. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Cik Ramla, librarian at University Science Malaysia. Will be your moderator for today's webinar. I would like to welcome our special guest for today's webinar, Ms. Chen Chuling, Clarivate Regional Solution Consultant. Good morning, Chuling. How are you?
Good morning. Hi. All good, all good.
Yeah, we can't wait to listen to your presentation today. Okay, as of now, we have 111 participants registered for the event, consisting of researchers and also postgraduate students. For your information, Web of Science is currently subscribed by USM and it can be accessed through the USM Library website. It should be accessed through off-campus login via Open Athens. I think you can check the link also will be given at the chatting box. Okay, before we start, I want to make a few announcements. All participants will receive an e-certificate and CPD points for USM staff. You simply need to fill in our feedback form. The link will be provided at the end of the session. During the session, you can ask any questions related to the topic in the chat box and the speaker will answer them as time permits. Okay, please note that a recorded version of this webinar will also be available on the YouTube USM Library TV channel later. Okay, now we have reached our main agenda where we will listen to tips and guidance from our speaker. Therefore, without further ado, I would like to invite our speaker, Ms. Chen Chuling, to proceed with her presentation entitled Research Performance Benchmarking and Develop Research Collaboration Using Incites. Ms. Chuling, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Cik Ramla. Very good morning, everyone. So first, I want to thank those who have joined us before. So that means those of you who have previously joined us in our Web of Science Research Discovery session a few weeks back. Welcome back. Thanks for taking time again to join us. My name is Julin, and I'm the Regional Solution Consultant from Clarivate. And for today's session, what I'll be sharing with you is the research collaboration capabilities of using using our tool called Incites that allows you to take the Web of Science data and do some analysis so that you can strategically choose the right partners to collaborate with. At the same time, I will also be sharing with you how you can use this tool to benchmark research performance of your organization and so on. So as I go through the session today, if you have any questions, feel free to put those questions in the chat box. I will monitor that frequently. Otherwise, if you have any other questions later on through the session, we can address those at the end as well. Okay, so before we begin, just want to say to apologize. I'm down with the flu currently. Actually, the whole household is down with the flu. So if I have to pause at any time and you can't hear me, it's probably because I'm coughing in the background. All right, so just apologize in advance first. Okay, so let me just do this. So to conserve bandwidth, I'm going to stop my video, but I'm still here. All right, so in our last session, we covered Web of Science, and indeed, you can use Web of Science for a lot of different use cases like finding papers, identifying journals to publish in. At the same time, you can also use Web of Science to identify very high level analysis on who is publishing in a particular subject category. Okay, so when you are able to identify who is publishing in a specific research topic or a specific research area, those would become kind of your short list for collaborators. Okay, so Before I jump into Insights, I want to just quickly go through Web of Science again so that you are familiar with how to use these high-level analysis. All right. So as Chit Ramla mentioned at the beginning, if you want to access Web of Science, there will be a link provided in the chat. It's through the library's website, so you have to sign in via the whichever access that the library has asked you to sign in with, and then look for Web of Science, and you should be able to log in. Now, once you're on Web of Science, you can immediately do a search for the research topic that you're doing. So let's say I am doing hydrogen energy. Okay, we can do a quick keyword search. So you get a very huge number of results, but under hydrogen energy, there are a lot of subtopics, right? So you could be doing research around hydrogen energy storage and so on. So in this case, I would be using the citation topics meso as a way to reduce this number of, reduce the noise that I am getting from this search result. So on the citation topics here, we have this option called hydrogen chemistry and storage. So no matter what subject topics that you were searching for or keywords you were searching for, you can always use the citation topics to identify the closest match in terms of your research topic. So I'm going to just limit this to hydrogen chemistry and storage. So now my result set has actually gone down tremendously to about 11,077. And I think this pool of results is enough for us to do some kind of high-level analysis. So the analysis that you can do is via the Analyze Results functionality on Web of Science. So you can click on Analyze Results. And you can click on this drop-down arrow. So this drop-down arrow here. And you will be able to see the countries. Okay. So when you select countries, you will be able to see the top 10 countries that are producing this area of research that you have just searched for. And if you want the full long list, then this would be it. All right. So highest productivity is definitely China, and then followed by US and Japan. Let's say that now you want to perhaps find a collaborator who is from Japan. Then you can select Japan and refine results by selected. Okay, so I will repeat. What you can do is do and analyze results of your search and then select countries. From here, if you want Japan, you can select from the table or click on view records here on the tree map. So if I click on view records, these are the 947 papers from Japan that is doing hydrogen chemistry and storage research. And immediately from here, I can do another level of analysis. So I can click on Analyze Results. And this time, instead of looking at the country, I will look at the institutions within the country. So just remember, this 947 publications is from Japan. And you can then go to affiliations to see all the Japan institutions that is doing this area of research. So you have Tohoku University, Hiroshima University, and Kyushu University. Now, from here, again, if you want to find those related papers from Tohoku University, then you can select Tohoku University and refine results by selected. Okay, so now you see that I have Tohoku University from Japan doing hydrogen chemistry and storage. And these are the 113 papers. And from here, there is a filter for highly cited papers that you can view, which means to say you can limit this to the most reputable papers from this institution. So you refine this. And if you want to click onto this particular record, then there will be more information here, and there could be contact emails. So just take note, the countries would be part of the affiliations within the list of addresses of the record. So that's why I mentioned that this is probably a very high level analysis to guide you on which institutions are doing this area of research. However, on Web of Science, that you're not able to easily retrieve data around whether they are first authors or last authors or corresponding authors in that analysis. Okay, why is it important to have that author position available? It's because you want to be able to partner with the true expert. Okay, it's not just about identifying one of the authors within a big list of authors within the record, but rather you want to be able to pinpoint who is the lead scientist doing that research in that paper. Okay, so how do you do this? You can then easily do this on the other tool that we have called Incites, benchmarking and analytics. So the product that we will be deep diving into would be Incites, benchmarking and analytics, which is here on the top right-hand corner that you can click through. Okay, so I have just quickly shown you how you can do this high-level analysis to identify a short list of institutions and papers to find collaborators within Web of Science. But I will now move into a more in-depth explanation of how you can use insights indicators to give you an idea of who is essentially the expert of those fields. All right. So before I move on, are there any questions pertaining to the Web of Science Analyze Results feature that I have just shown you? No? All right. Then we can just move on to insights. Okay. So insights, benchmarking, and analytics, what is this? All right. Essentially, it is a database. It's a turnkey solution that allows you to look at Web of Science data under a microscope. Okay, so it includes many different indicators like what is listed here on the screen. So we have citation indicators. So it's not just about citation counts. So remember when you were looking at Web of Science, we were able to look at citation counts, total papers, but that's only a very high level information. If you don't put those numbers into context, so let's say business versus engineering, then you will not be able to easily trace and track which are the most impactful researchers or papers out there. Okay. So citation always has to be taken into context. So on Insights, benchmarking, and analytics, what we do is that we normalize the citation counts based on the publication type. So that means we only compare, when we are doing these indicators, we only put those like for like together. That means documents are put together, conference proceedings are put together, and so on. And we also put them according to publication years so that we are measuring based on the same year of publication and also the same specialization. So because we are able to group all these papers together, and we are able to derive some kind of normalized indicator so that you can benchmark papers no matter which no matter which subject category they are under. Okay, so in the event that you're confused on what normalization is, just remember normalization will change an apple to an orange so that the orange can be compared with an orange. Okay, so it's about making sure that you are able to compare like for like and make more informed decisions from there. We also include collaboration indicators. So in today's time, we are always looking at collaborations because no one is alone. Almost every single facet of research or science is around collaborations. But ultimately, I also see that a lot of institutions are signing MOUs with various countries and various institutions to partner in terms of research or industry collaborations. But once you have signed these MOUs, it is important to make sure that you're always monitoring the returns on these collaborations. And one of those returns is in terms of the research impact that you have from these collaborations. So on Incites benchmarking analytics, there is indicators available to look at international collaborations, industry collaborations, domestic collaborations, or even organization-only collaborations. So almost every form of collaborations can be easily identified within the Incites benchmarking analytics, and you can then do some analysis. We also have open access indicators. Open access, in case any of you are not familiar, open access means that the journal or the content is free for users to read. Okay, and it is getting more and more prominent because there's some advocacy on trying to publish open science. So there's more and more open access content. But when there's a lot of open access content, the money has to come from somewhere, right? So instead of the institutions subscribing to the journals, the authors themselves will be the ones who are paying an article processing charge to the journal so that their work can be published. So if an institution like USM, if you have provided a lot of funding for research to be open access, you want to be able to also analyze the return on investments on this open access content that you have funded. Now, we have schemas available as well. Okay, so what is schema? So schemas are like a framework of how we categorize the journals and the documents within Web of Science. Okay, so if you remember my last session on around Web of Science, there are 254 subject categories in Web of Science. So that means the journals will be classified into one of these, at least one of these 254 subject categories. So the Web of Science subject category is considered a schema, but that schema is only available in the Web of Science content. So that means when you're looking at Web of Science, that's the only categorization you will probably see. On Incites benchmarking and analytics, you are able to see more categorizations, meaning you will see Web of Science. You are also able to see, if you're keen on Shanghai ranking, we have Shanghai GRAS ranking, categorization, and we also have something called the citation topics. Okay, citation topics is the way that we classify the articles into research topics based on their citation relationships. Then we also have SDG, okay, Sustainable Development Goals. So we have a SDG schema as well that you can analyze your output with. Okay. So I've explained quite a lot on what kind of indicators are available in Incites, but where's the data coming from? So the data actually comes from the Web of Science core collection. So just to remind you, when you were looking at Web of Science itself, there is this search in Web of Science core collection, okay? And it will include the Science Citation Index expanded, social science, arts and humanities, conference proceedings, books, and emerging sources citation index. So all these are covered under the Web of Science core collection. And that is the data that goes into Incites benchmarking tool. All right. And currently, this data is used across these various ranking bodies. So it includes the US News Today and also the CWTS Leiden ranking and also the Shanghai rankings. Okay. Now, this is just a snapshot of some of the most common indicators that we have on the Incites benchmarking and analytics platform. Okay, so if any of you are confused what indicators are, it's like just a form of measurement. So just like centimeters and meter, kg, grams, milliliter. Okay, so when it comes to bibliometric or research impact or research output, we are always measuring using each of these different indicators. So we always have a framework. So those in dark blue is like a scope of area that we want to measure. So if you want to measure productivity and impact, then these would be the potential indicators that you'll be choosing. Then we have normalization. So that means if you want to compare impact between different specializations, then you can use the normalized indicators to compare. Then we have performance and collaborations and journal intelligence. Now, those that I highlighted in orange, if you want to, you can take a snapshot, but the slides will be provided to all of you after today. You can take a snapshot to see which are the most commonly used indicators in each of these categories. Okay, I want to take an opportunity to explain about a few of these. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. So category normalized citation impact, in short form is called CNCI, is one of my favorite indicators when you want to compare and benchmark institutions, research areas, or researchers. The reason is because CNCI is very easy to read. So if the CNCI is at 1.0, that would indicate global average benchmark. Okay, so that's the global benchmark. So that means if you are seeing that USM has a CNCI of 1.5, okay, it means that USM is doing 50% better than the other universities in the world. Okay. If it is below 1, then it is below global average. So fairly simple to remember, because what we've done is we have normalized this indicator based on subject categories, publication type, and publication year. So you can immediately see and benchmark with that indicator. The other one here, which is percentage of documents by JIF quartile. So if you want to know your contributions to the JIF quartiles like Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, then the docs by JIF quartile will be the one that you would be looking at. So we have JIF quartile 1, 2, 3, and 4. So from an administrative standpoint, if you want to easily retrieve USM's papers in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, you can do this fairly easily on Incites. In terms of performance, we have the top 1% and top 10%. This would mean that there are citation counts. I've put them in the top 1% or 10% in the specific field or subject category. Okay. Now there's a link here to take you to the indicators handbook. So this would give you more explanations of how each of these indicators work and how they have been calculated. Continuously, the Incites team is always looking to improve on the types of indicators that we have on the system. So for last year, we actually introduced some new indicators like the ones here on the screen. So we've included citations from patents. So you're able to now see how many patents have cited your work. The next step that we are doing in terms of this improvement is to be able to link out to a preview page of the patents itself, a list of the patents itself, so you can see your innovation influence downstream. We also have the baseline indicators. Now, this is a fairly useful one in the event that you want to compare your contributions domestically and internationally. So if you include these baselines here, so that means if you've selected only the institutions from a specific country, then all items will represent that country. So in this case here, I've included Australia. Okay, so these are all Australia institutions. So if I look at University of Queensland, the contribution to the global bucket, that means their total contributions to the global research bucket is 0.34%. Okay. And if you compare locally, that means in Australia itself, then University of Queensland contributes 46.95% of their total research. All right, so these two indicators can be quite useful when you want to see your contributions to a certain country or certain research area. We mentioned about collaboration. So these two new indicators have been provided. So there's a domestic collaborations indicator, which means to say that you're able to measure how many % of your collaborations are done only within your country, and which are the ones that only collaborated within one institution. Okay, so that means these are, for example, 9.8% of the papers are UQ collaborating with UQ researchers. Okay. We have also introduced some new features. So we are always introducing new features into Incites. And one of my favorites this year is actually what we call the grouping functionality. So for USM, I think the logical way of using this functionality is, for example, if you want to group certain schools researchers together, so you want to group them into one group and be able to compare one school versus another school, for example. Or you can also group this based on research units or research groups. Then you can compare one research group to another research group. Now, within each group, you can put up to 100 entities. That means you can add up to 100 researchers or 100 institutions into a group. And within each analysis, that means if you're looking at research area and researchers or institutions, then there's 20 groups per analysis. Okay. So I'm going to pause here to take any questions. I'm not sure whether you can unmute yourself, but if you can, feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions. Otherwise, you can always type them into the chat. Any questions from anyone? I don't see any in the chat. Okay. So then let's move on. So here I want to explain a little bit about the schemas that we have available. Okay, so I mentioned about the Web of Science subject category schema. So there's 254 of them. So you can also use this schema to do your analysis within Incites. We also have citation topic schema. And to easily explain this, this is an example of how the citation topics work. So there is a macro topic. So this is the broad areas. There are 10 of them. So this is an example. So under number 2, we have chemistry. Now, let's say you want to know what subtopics under chemistry there are. Then you can go one level down to the mesotopics and look for, and you will see a single decimal point, but you still see the 2 in front. So it's still related to chemistry, and you have organic semiconductors. Then if you still want to go deeper, under organic semiconductors, we also have another extra decimal point, which denotes microtopics. And one example is OLEDs. Okay, so the citation topics is actually quite useful when you want to identify research strength and potential of a institution, okay, because it's closer to the categorization of the research topics itself. Okay, I see a question in the chat. Do you mind to show on how to search for top 10% journals? Yes, I can definitely share that with you when I go through the walkthrough. And that was one of the things that I wanted to show as well, just to see, to give you an idea. Yeah. Then we also have the UN SDG schema. We have 16 of them. So you're able to see USM's contributions or any other institutions' contributions. We also have the global ranking of academic subjects, Shanghai rankings. Okay, so we have the subject areas available so that you are able to look at these indicators from a ranking perspective. Okay, so before I go into the live demonstration, I just show you a few screen grabs of the kinds of analysis that you can do on Insights. This is one example that I have used before. So this is comparing USM to other Malaysia universities. Just take note the labels are done by myself manually, okay? But the chart in the background, which is this scatter plot chart, is part of the Insights visualization tool. Okay, so you're able to see USM here, and you can then compare yourself against the other institutions based on these indicators that I have listed. Okay. You can do this when you are, say, searching for institutions that focus on a specific subject area. You can also use that to compare which institutions would be the ideal fit for synergistic collaborations. Okay. So let me just go into the platform itself first to give you a walkthrough of that basic functionality and also how I have retrieved that comparison of USM with other institutions. Okay. So to access Insights benchmarking and analytics, first you need to have your own login. So if you have previously registered for your own ID for Web of Science, you can use that same ID to register for Insights. Just make sure that your first access for Insights has to be via the USM Libraries login. So that means you have to sign in via Open Athens or whichever form of access that the library encourages you to use. And then look for Insights before you do your registration. All right. Okay, so the platform here is very basic. It allows you to do an analysis, look at some existing reports, and organize your reports and so on. So to start off, if you click on this drop-down arrow under Analyze, you will see all these different entities. So which means to say that you are able to do an analysis on each of these different entities. So depending on what your question was, then you can select the correct one. So let's say now I want to compare USM against other institutions in ASEAN region. Okay, then the analysis that you would start with is the organizations analysis because you're looking at comparing the organization with other organizations. So click on organizations. And this would be the default look and feel. There is a column for filters on the left. So these are filters that you can use to limit the result search set that you are analyzing. Then we have a tab for indicators. These are all the different indicators that I have mentioned in my slide. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit more. And you can just click through to any of this, and there's a short explanation of the indicators before you can click on Add. Okay. Then you have the Baselines tab. So this is where you can start to compare the institution against the global baselines or country baselines or all items or pin items. Okay. So by default, the data set that is used for analysis is the Insights data set. And this is based off the Web of Science content indexed through 31st January 2023. So just take note that there's always a time lag between the content in Web of Science and the data in Insights. The publication date can be customized. So by default, it has the last 5 complete years. Here, you can then choose to customize your year range depending on your analysis. So let's start with filtering. Okay, so to use Insights, Insights is actually a very flexible tool. So almost every single type of analysis that you want to find out is available on Insights. So what I would advise you to do is think of the question that you want answered, then look through the analysis, walk through the analysis. So another use case that you can use this for is to find institutions around the world doing a specific research area, doing a research topic. Okay, but first, let me just share with you how you can limit by location. So let's say you want to compare USM with the rest of the institutions in the ASEAN region. Then what you can do is go by location, limit this to ASEAN, and update the results. So once I've selected the region of ASEAN, then it will only populate the organizations in the ASEAN region. Okay. Next thing is that if you want to compare only the academic institutions based on, that means the type, then you use organization type as your filter and limit it to academic. So now I have the 424 academic organizations around the region. Now you can see USM is here at the top 6 based on Web of Science documents. So that means if we sort this by Web of Science documents, you are ranked number 6. But actually, there's an NTU here and there's an NTU NIE. There's a reason for this. The reason is because NTU has requested us to separate the two. So if I remove just this one, so I select this one and hide it so that I don't see the combined NIE NTU, then USM is ranked number 5 in terms of Web of Science documents between 2018 to 2022. Okay, so this is based on the ASEAN region. Then you can include multiple indicators so that you can compare yourself against the others. So this is where you start to add the indicators. So you can go to the indicators tab and you select the relevant ones. I've already included some here. So you can see that for CNCI, NUS is 1.86. So that means compared to the other international organizations, NUS is performing 86% higher than the others in the world. For USM, you are doing 1.12. So you can see here for UKM, although they have a higher number of documents compared to you, but in terms of the impact, they are actually slightly lower. Okay, but just take note that this has not been filtered down to author positions. So if we filter this down to author positions, it might tell a different story. Okay. So we have all these different indicators here that allows you to drill deeper. So for USM, you have 8,724 internationally collaborated papers. You can click on this And this would open up the list of papers, and you can download this for your reference. Okay. Then these are the documents or publications from USM that is performing in the top 10% of this field. Okay, so if you want, you can click on this, and these are the top 10% papers from click wrongly, USM. Okay, so these are the 1,800 plus papers in the top 10%. Now, Cik Ramla, you asked how many indicators can we add at one time. There's no limit, so you can add as many indicators as you want. If you want to export this list, this table, my recommendation is to add the indicators that you require before you click on the download button. Because when you click on download here, it will download the full tables indicators here as per what you have selected. Okay. So for administrative purposes, you can actually see here, this is one example I have, documents in Q1 journals. So immediately you can see these are the 2,870 papers from USM that is in Q1 journals. Right. So the visualization that I showed you in the slide is here. So you can go to visual. And there are various options of visualizations available. There is trend graph, which is the one shown here. For example, if I look at productivity, I can see the trend for all the top 25 institutions in the list. Then if I choose the scatter plot, the scatter plot is the one that allows you to see and benchmark clearly. So you can see here, let me find USM. So USM is here. If I choose the y-axis as CNCI, okay, and I use the point radius as, let's say, documents in the top 10%. So looking at performance. Then where's USM? So USM is here. Okay, you can actually compare USM with the other institutions on this list. Okay. Now, N has a question on, can we retrieve and compare data by specific research area within Malaysia, such as I like to retrieve the data from pharmacy researchers and publications within the country. Yes, so what I've shown you here is just the first type of analysis that you can do. That means limiting it down to a location. So if you want to limit this down to a subject area and a location, what you can do then is to select from here location, and you choose Malaysia. I hear some sound in the background. Is somebody trying to ask a question? Okay. All right. So here, I've limited it down to the Malaysia only academic institutions. So you can see here, USM is ranked number 3, based on productivity. Okay. Now the next thing is then to limit this to a specific research area. This is where you go to the research areas here, and you select the schema first. So you can either choose Web of Science schema or citation topics. So I can actually share with you both. So for Web of Science, if you want pharmacy related, there's pharmacology and pharmacy. Then you update results. Then this would be all the institutions in Malaysia that is doing pharmacology and pharmacy research. And this is for between 2018 to 2022. If you want to identify collaborators from this list, my recommendation is for you to include also the author position filter. So this is to make sure that those institutions here are the ones that are leading that research. So we can put first author, last author, or corresponding author, depending on the subject specialization. Because different specializations actually use author positions a bit differently. Sometimes the last author can be just the supervisor. Sometimes the corresponding author could be the supervisor rather than and then the first author is the lead scientist. So depends on the subject area. So let's look at this. So if I limit this to these 3 author positions, then I can safely look and see for USM, here you have the top number of papers led by yourself in the area of pharmacology and pharmacy. And this is your CNCI for this set of papers. Okay. And you will be able to then see whether there's any international collaborations happening, even though you were looking at these Malaysia papers only. And 7 of them are highly cited. Okay. So if you want to drill into which are the researchers from these organizations that publish these papers, then you can either click through to these numbers. So that means if you want to find a collaborator from UKM, then these are the research articles, and you can click through from here and view it on Web of Science. Okay, and then there will be a contact email address if they are the corresponding author, and you can then reach out to them for collaboration. All right, so this is the email here. So if you want to collaborate with them, then you can reach out from this. Right. Okay. The other way that you can do this is actually to select the institution, and then you can click on this number 587. At the bottom of this list, there is refocus to view. So it means that it would help you to port this information to a different analysis. So let's say I want to see now the researchers. So I can choose researchers affiliated with USM that is publishing this area of research. So I can click on Go. So now you can see the same filters are there, but now I have moved to researchers. So in USM, these are the researchers publishing 2018 to 2022 in pharmacology and pharmacy, and they are first authored, last authored, or corresponding authored. Okay, so let me sort this list by Web of Science documents. Then we have these individuals. So this is grouped by author record, which means to say, if you remember my previous session, we talked about the researchers. So this was in Web of Science, and we look at organizations. So these are the profiles that you have from USM. Okay, so in here, you are able to then see these profiles listed here. And the green tick means that that individual has claimed that profile. Okay, so now you can easily compare one individual against another based on Web of Science documents, based on CNCI. There's also other indicators like H index, which is also available, and the average percentile. So the higher the percentile, the better the performance. So if you can see here, some of them are at 71, some at 46. Okay, so these these various indicators can be used to compare individual researchers in a particular subject area or category. Okay. If you want to compare this individual in a global arena, you can. So what you then do is you pin this individual to the top. So let's say for this individual, you pin to the top. And this time round, you do not limit to the USM. So it will open up for the other institutions around the world, and you remove Malaysia as well. So since here I'm having Malaysia, so in comparison to the other Malaysia researchers, you can start to compare him or her with the others from Malaysia. If you want to compare by the world, then you remove the filter for location Malaysia. And then you can compare. Okay. One thing I have not included is the ranking. So you can choose from add indicator here to add a rank. Okay. Oh, actually I have. So where is it? Hang on. Let me find it. Yeah, so it's here. Okay. Let me move. So all these tables can be moved depending on what you want to see first. So I move this to the front. Okay, so based on the number of Web of Science documents produced in pharmacology and pharmacy, this individual is ranking 241 in the world. Okay, with this number. But of course, this is only ranked based on Web of Science documents. The other easier way to compare is to look at the visualization, okay, so that you can look at both the productivity and the research impact of the individual. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean. So if you look at this scatter plot, I can choose maybe 10. Okay. And I would choose CNCI. And I will choose average percentile. Okay, so if I remember, this individual is Khan Amar Ahed. So this is the individual from USM in pharmacology. Then based on this chart here, you can see like a scatter plot. You can always remember one is the global benchmark. So in terms of impact, he's doing below global average compared to the others here. And in terms of productivity, he is also quite fairly low. So this is how you start to benchmark an individual with other individuals in the same subject area. All right. Okay, then Muhammad Kamal, Dr. Kamal, you have a question. Can we analyze the data up to the level of school or faculty at USM? So if you want to analyze the department and schools within USM, I think there's a requirement to get this plugin. So this is an additional subscription to the Incites platform. So you can go to My Organization. So we have this analysis here that requires an additional subscription. I've done this as a sample. So we did this with Universitas Alanga. This is just a sample data set, so it's not a lot. Okay, but they have built in their organization's hierarchy, meaning they have their faculty, their department, and the researchers within those departments. So immediately I can see that there are, under Faculty of Medicine, there are 28 departments. Okay, and if I click the drop down arrow, I can then see which ones has a researcher information. Okay. So this one. So Department of Medical Microbiology has this individual, Kuntaman, with 21 papers. And immediately I can click on this name and see his profile on Incites. So there's a researcher report available, and I can see his H index, published documents by the time frame that I've selected. Okay, so just to answer the question from Dr. Kamal and Anne, this requires an add-on subscription. There is a template that you can upload. So you can upload based on a template for organization, hierarchy, and researchers. And then the analysis can be done by organization. Just to give you an example of how this is done. So under organizations, analyze by organizations. Okay. So now if you got my organization, you will then use the data set for my organization. Okay. And I can then remove this one, this research area. And the department level, I will choose level 2. Department level all. Okay. So I can then now see the university level, the faculty level, and the department level data. All right. So if I want to do all years, I will probably see more levels and more papers. Okay. So you can then use the corresponding indicators that we have on Insights to do your analysis and comparison. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Mr. Kamal, Dr. Kamal. If you have a requirement for this plugin, let us know and we can work together. Okay. Okay, so coming back to our Insights data set. Okay, some of you, I think for today, we are talking about identifying collaborators. Let me just go back to my slide. Based on the USM's research areas or strengths, you might want to focus on your strategy around areas of potential. So to identify areas of potential, we always try to use the scatter plot as a way to do some kind of SWOT analysis. So the top right-hand side is always those subject areas that have high productivity and high impact. That means those are your cash cows. You maintain those. Those that are on the bottom right, so these are those that have high productivity, but it's not giving you the impact that you want to move it up to this quadrant here. So perhaps what you can then do is to increase your synergistic collaborations so that you can drive that impact upwards. Those that are on the bottom left, these are those that have very low productivity and also very low impact. So these are areas of concern that you might want to look at. Then areas of potential may or may not have potential. It depends. So if you see that there are certain numbers here with very high impact, okay, just take a look and see whether those were driven by those consortia authorships. So that means there's papers with very large number of authors that are driving, because when you have a large number of authors and USM authors are part of that, it may not be a genuine look at a genuine profile to say that that research area was led by USM. Okay, so you can see here, these are some of the research areas based on macro citation topics. And then you have those that are performing slightly above one, that is here, clinical life sciences, social sciences, engineering. And this one, if you drilled in, you can see that one particular paper is producing a very high number of citations. Okay. So this was the paper that was in eLife. There were 794 researchers in there from 428 organizations. So that was the macro level. So that means the broad top level. If you want to drill into mid level, that means meso level topics, this is how it would look like. So this is your contributions in each of these areas. So like phytochemicals, paper and wood material science, polymer sciences, these seem to have some potential. So if you can drive this upwards, this would be also useful. Okay. And the micro level. Okay. So depending on which area that you want to drive, okay, if you want to drive, say, if you want to do a comparison of your contributions to a particular research area, you can look at one topic. So let's say DHA. We can look at the global organizations and which are the top organizations that are doing this. So this is one way of finding the collaborators in a specific micro topic. So DHA research, if you want to find a collaborator, you can list those institutions here. Okay. Now, if you want to go one level up, that means a bit more general, then maybe you want to look at phytochemicals. We can look at a few things: top 10 countries, top 10 institutions, and top 10 researchers. Okay. So within Insights, you can filter down to the top 10 countries. So we have US, Italy, or Spain. And these are the data. So these are the indicators. So depending on which one has the higher first authorship. So you can see here Poland has a fairly high first authorship and corresponding authorship. And their CNCI is 1.2. So potentially you can reach out to any of these collaborators. Okay. If you want to find the top 10 institutes, just go to the organizations analysis and filter this down to phytochemicals research under citation topics, and you will be able to identify some of these top institutes. And then you can drill down to the top 10 researchers as well. And once you know or shortlist some of these individuals, you can then go back into Web of Science to the Web of Science researcher profile or author record to see his full profile of publications. Okay, and you can also use the author impact beam plot to see how active he is in more recent years. If you want to identify journals to publish in, then you can also limit this to the top, to the phytochemicals research topic and use the publication analysis to identify these journals. So we have the Q1, Q2 publications. All right. So I've shown you some screen grabs. I'm going to pause here and see if there's any questions from the audience. Otherwise, I just give me 1 minute, yeah. Just hang on, yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. All right. No questions? No questions from the chat as well. So I think we can move on. So I've shared with you on the slides on how to identify these institutions and countries. I will walk through with you on how to do this on Insights. Okay. So the first thing that you can do is if you want to find the top 10 countries in a particular subject, a research topic, then you go to Analyze, Locations. Okay, let me clear the filters. Okay, then what you do is you choose the publication dates, and filter this down to research area. So the schema that I was using just now for phytochemicals is the citation topics, and it was in the meso level. I would use phytochemicals and update results. Okay, so these are the countries around the world that is doing this area of research, and you can see their corresponding performances and authorships. Okay. If you want to find collaborators from these countries, one of the other useful indicators you can see is the international collaborations. So if there is very low international collaborations, you kind of have an idea that they may or may not be so open to international partnerships. Okay, so this could help you to judge and see where who you can try and approach if you're looking at a country level collaboration. Otherwise, this would be the list that you can see for the countries in a specific research area. Now, the next thing is to find the organizations. So you can choose organizations either from here or from here. So just now I actually already showed you how to do this, but I can show this again. So if I choose a different time frame, something more recent, then I can use the filters here again to look at research area and select citation topics, meso, and then choose phyto and update. All right, so this is the organizations. If you want to limit this to only those that are academic, then you can select organization type, academic, and update. So now you have reduced the number. If you see that the publication numbers here are not that high, the other way that you can reduce the noise here is also to limit by number of documents. So let's say for Web of Science documents, you want to make sure that each of these institutions have produced at least maybe 500 papers in that same time frame. Then you can set the threshold to minimum of 500 documents and update. And you would be down to 34 organizations. And if you want to only find those that they have first authored and corresponding authored, then you can use the author position here to put in these filters. Okay, so now out of this list, you are able to see 16 organizations that you can probably choose from to do partnership if you want to do phytochemicals research. Okay, Now, so this is the organizations. The next thing is the researchers. So if there's a specific organization that you're after, I've already shown you. Let's say you want to reach out to somebody from Cairo University, then you can click on this 538 and refocus to view researchers affiliated with this entity and go. Okay, then you can sort this by documents. And these are the options that you have to reach out to. Okay, and you have their corresponding researcher IDs here, so you can go to the Web of Science and search for their full profile to make sure that they are indeed the experts within phytochemicals, because sometimes in the scheme of their whole portfolio, maybe they only produce a small portion of that papers that are in phytochemicals. So it's always good to dig a little deeper by going into the researcher's full profile on Web of Science to see his full publication list. Okay. Then the last few parts would be on the publications. Okay, so this is where you go to publications and find the the journals that are publishing this area of research. So under Analyze Publication Sources, clear this filter first. Right. Here you can actually find, you can use the filters again. So the filters here, we have average JIF percentile. So earlier on, somebody mentioned whether we can find the top 10% in terms of the journals. So you can choose this. So 90. Update. So I'm using the average JIF percentile of 90 to 100 so that I can surface those that are in the top 10% of with journal impact factor. And next, I can filter this down to a specific research area. And I choose citation topics as so. And I look for phytochemical and update. So then these 359 publications are in the top 10% percentile that published this area of research for phytochemicals. Okay. Okay. So these are the journals. You can use this for the subject categories in Web of Science as well. So just change the schema to the Web of Science subject category, and you will be able to identify those journals. Okay. I think also for the university, when I know that you have a subscription to Journal Citation Reports, so when you were looking for a list of journals, sometimes that list becomes more than 600, which is the export limit in JCR. That you can always come over to Incites, limit this to 2021, which is the latest JCR year. Okay. And you can choose the source type as journals and update. Then these are the 1,000 journals across all the different categories that are in the top 10% based on journal impact factor. Then you can export this list for your own reference. Okay, so this is the workaround for the export limit within JCR. Cik Ramla, there's a question from Dr. Khairu Ano bin Sharif. How to map and find potential collaborators, especially country who involved in Erasmus program. I'm not too familiar with what this Erasmus program is, but let me do a quick Google. But if it's a specific research category, let me see. So I'm not sure what this Erasmus program is, but it looks like it's it's a scheme that comprises programs within EU. Okay. Then what you can do is we won't be able to find specific how to say, we won't be able to find specific researchers that can participate in Erasmus, but you will be, if there's a list of countries that have been disclosed, then you can use the locations as a way to identify the countries and then drill to the institutions within those countries. Okay, so let me have a look closer. Yeah. Yeah, so if this program has been funded, the alternative thing that you can do is under Web of Science itself, you can do a search under, let's see, funding agency. If there's a funding agency, Erasmus? No, there's no Erasmus in the funding agency. But you can do an advanced search in the funding text. Okay, so let me find. So there's a funding text available. So FT equals Erasmus, just to see whether there's some information. So there is. Let me just do a quick check to see whether it is indeed talking about this Erasmus program. So we can see the funding information. Yeah, so there's Erasmus Plus program here. So what you can do is do an advanced search in Web of Science. Then you have the FT equals Erasmus and do a search. So I can copy this and share this in the chat so that you can replicate this search. But you have these contributions to Erasmus funding text. Then you can click on Analyze Results. And you can choose affiliations. And you can see the various institutions that are involved in the Erasmus program. Okay, I hope that answers your question. If you want to port this data over to Insights for analysis, you can as well. So you can export, click on export and go to Insights. And then you can save it as Erasmus. Okay, and then export. So it should take quite fast, quite instant in terms of the data. Then immediately you can go to organizations, analysis in Insights. Okay, we clear this. And then this time you choose the custom data that we have exported. So the data set I've exported is called the Erasmus program. Oops, I misspelled it. So choose the relevant one that you have just imported. So this is my documents for 2018 to 2022. And immediately I can see the organizations and their CNCI and the international collaborations and other indicators on Insights. Okay. All right. So, Dr. Kairu, I hope you are still on the call. I hope this helps you with your analysis and your question. Okay. So just remember, if there's any specific things that you want to find that you can't really find on Insights, you can always try to do a custom search within Web of Science and then port that data over into Insights to do your further analysis and comparisons. All right. If this is a report that you want to constantly retrieve, you can also include the visualization into a report. Okay. So you can save this add to report. Just take note that add to report is only available when you click on visual. Okay, so you can add to report, create a new title for the report. You can even create a new report. And then you save it. So you select the document and save. So the next time you're done, you can come back to this same report so that you don't have to replicate that search or data filters again. Okay, so to retrieve the saved reports, you go to Organize, Folders, and okay, then it will be here, Erasmus program. Okay, so under these folders, you would see a lot of different things. You have the groupings, you have the this icon here means that it's a data set, and you have a report and you have a folder. Okay, so if you come back to this report, if you save multiple visualizations here, then it creates like a nice report that you can share or download as a PDF. Okay. Question from N. Can we differentiate the documents between SSCI, SCIE, AHCI, and ESCI? Okay, so let me come to here. Okay. Okay, you won't be able to do this here on the Insights, but you can definitely see the breakdown here on Web of Science. So on the Web of Science filter, there, if you scroll all the way down, okay, there is something called the Web of Science Index. Then you can see all, and you can see its breakdown in SCIE, SSCI, CPCI, ESCI. Okay, so you can do that here on Web of Science itself. Okay. Think I've shown you quite a lot already. I hope it's not too fast. If there's parts that you are not entirely clear, there's always the recording that you can refer back to. But I hope this session actually helped to give you like a quick overview of the capabilities of Insights itself and what you can do with it. I think for today's use case, I focus very much on collaborations. Okay. And if you have any questions now, we do have some time to take any questions or any use case that comes to your mind that you want to find out. I can try and demonstrate that to you. Okay. So Arina Wati, you have a question about, can you show the USM open access indicators? Okay, give me a second, yeah. Yeah. So let me look at the open access indicators. So for USM, let's search for USM here, Science Malaysia. So you can search for the organization here at the top as well. So for USM, these are your indicators. For open access, there is here, add indicator. So you can scroll down and find open access. So there's a whole lot of indicators for open access. Then you can see all open access documents, gold, hybrid gold, free to read, green submitted. So all the different levels are here, and also the non-open access, and then also the corresponding percentages. So you can apply. And this would be all the different papers that are categorized in each of these different buckets. Okay. Then N, I think this is a continuation of your question. So on Incites itself, we do not showcase the differentiation between SSCI, SCIE, AHCI, and ESCI, but you can definitely see that there's a toggle here. So say, for example, here, there is an include ESCI documents. So if you exclude ESCI documents, then this number here, 13,570 papers, is part of SSCI, SCIE, AHCI, and ESCI. All right. There could be conference proceedings as well, but you can limit this by the document type. Okay. See publication source. Yeah. So you can include publication source for journals. So when you're including journals only, okay, then this 11,425 are those that are in SCIE, SSCI, and AHCI. Okay, because I've excluded ESCI documents. Okay. So that's how we differentiate this at the moment. Otherwise, what you can do is you still include ESCI documents. Then click on this 15627. Okay. And view in Web of Science. So this is the 15,627. And then again, go down to the Web of Science indexes and see all. And then they will have the breakdown. Okay. So currently there's no direct way to do this on Incites itself, but I hope this helps. If there's a specific use case that is very important that requires you to do this, let us know. Otherwise, this would be the only way. So if you want to look at only the SCIE documents, then you filter this down to the SCIE ones, and then you export it back into Incites to do an analysis. Okay, but currently we do not break this down by the indexes. All right. Okay, let me see. Open access. Okay. So Arinawati, the way that you would use these open access indicators would be in the event that, let's say, you have certain documents that have been that you have provided APCs for. Okay. Usually these are the gold open access documents. Then you can analyze this based on these gold open access. Here, gold documents. So this 6,109 would usually be the ones that probably would have some kind of APC charge to it. But there's definitely those that might not have as well. but this helps you to shortlist down to those of that particular category. Okay. Okay. So in terms of the APC charges, on Incites itself, we do not have a filter that would show those that have APC charges. Okay, we only have the categorizations in terms of the open access levels. So gold, hybrid, green, yeah, and so on. Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions from the audience? Just a quick survey. Do you think what I've shown you would be useful for your work? If it does, please indicate a yes in the chat. Great, thank you very much, everyone. So, I think my voice is going to give way already. So, I will hand the time back over to Cik Ramla, who will do the closing. But in the meantime, if you have any more questions, you can always reach me or through the library. Right? So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chun Leng, for such an insightful presentation. I believe we have learned a great deal from today's session. Before we end, Chun Leng, may I know how much is the subscription that we have to add for the analyzation by faculty, as you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I don't have a figure with me, but I can definitely let our account managers know that you might want to have a ballpark figure. I can get that offline for you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have reached the end of our webinar. On behalf of the USM Library, I would like to extend my sincerest thanks to all participants, especially to our speaker for spending her time with us this morning. We apologize for any inconvenience during the session.